Okay, let me. I just updated it. You will start the session. Good evening, everyone. So we started with the introduction to manual testing, and then we started with Java. The core Java, starting from data types, conditional statement, iterative statements, and then classes and object concept, difference between static and non-static. And then once that is done, you can start working on the concept while discussing about classes and object. I explained you about what is exactly an object, how to initialize an object with your own data through the constructors, and what is that this keyword, super keyword with inheritance. And then method overloading in a same class, multiple methods can be created with same name by changing number of parameters, sequence, data type. Method overloading concept, method overriding concept, concept of polymorphism. Polymorphism, we call it as compile time and runtime. So compile time in the sense during the generation of bytecode, the method to be called will be resolved. Okay, the method to be called as resolved during the compile time. The other one is during the runtime. When you give WebDriver driver equal to new Chrome driver, that is an example of runtime polymorphism. You're creating an object for child and storing it a parent. When you do driver.get title, all these are going to come from the parent while writing the code. During the runtime, based on the object you create, it will work. And the new Chrome driver object, you can store it in WebDriver parent, you can store it in screenshot parent, JavaScript executor parent, different parents we can store. For that, we have to check the source code. As I told you, Selenium is an open source environment. You can start if you want to analyze the source code. Just Google Selenium source code. You will be getting the GitHub link. You see the GitHub link here. Okay. For example, let me show. Selenium basics and intermediate. The concept is we have done basic and advanced, but dynamic pages and all we are yet to discuss how to work with dynamic pages, which we will start it today. And tomorrow we will have full day session. And tomorrow we'll start with the framework. Once we complete the Selenium, we'll start with framework. And Selenium ID, those component and all, we can discuss it. Exception, how to handle exception, we'll discuss that today. Let me open the project. So when it comes to the technical part, we started with the data types, understanding what is primitive data types, what is non-primitive data types. Then conditional statement, if condition, and loop, for loop, for each, while, do, while. And then classes and object, difference between static and non-static. That recording will be available whenever you have doubts with classes and object. Just make sure that is clear. Based on that classes and object concept only, the entire OOPS concept will be discussed. Like inheritance, when you create an object for child, memory will be allocated for parent. Those things and all will be discussed based on that only. And when constructor is getting called, constructor is a kind of method during the object creation. Constructor will be called that is basically called initialization. Whenever you create a object of the browser, it will launch the browser. Like a new Chrome driver means it will launch the browser. The automation they might have done it inside the constructor, either in the Chrome driver or parent of Chrome driver. This Chrome driver comes from this package org openqa selenium.com. You can actually get the source code and you can check it. Under Java, src, Java project, org.openqa.selenium, Chrome, and you should be able to see Chrome driver here. Chrome driver.java file, source code. We are getting the bytecode. The jars, when you generate the jar, it basically converts the source code into bytecode. The bytecode will be compressed as a jar and given to you. Okay, collection of packages, bytecodes you will be having inside the jars. And you see here, this is the class Chrome driver class. Chrome driver extends Chromium driver. And you can see here Chromium driver and Chromium driver using WebDriver. Let me open that WebDriver as well. Just if you keep on going with that connection, you can find these are the parent level. You can store the Chrome Chrome object of Chrome driver. In it will take it in WebDriver. You see here, it takes with WebDriver. It is going to C# code. And while analyzing the source code, you can see it will show you multiple classes with the same name. One is from .NET, Java, and Python. We have to choose Java. And Chromium driver you see here. Chromium driver extends remote web driver, and most of the code present in the remote web driver only. It comes from Java. Let me go to that. The remote web driver capabilities, new object capabilities. While doing this operation only, somewhere they might have done the code for launching the browser. Okay. Somewhere in the parent constructor, it will be there. And this source code you can start exploring if you want. And if you want to understand the standard of coding and all, you can explore the source code. Open source environment only. Okay, we can download the source code and start working with source code, but it will be heavy. Every time it will get compiled and then it will run. That's why we download the compressed jar. Jar will be having the packages, collection of packages, compiled code. Basically, if you see all these are going to be bytecode. While calling this new Chrome driver, we don't want source code. When you run the Chrome driver, your operating system should understand the class Chrome driver object, right? JVM will come into picture and it helps the operating system to understand the code. For that basic level, bytecode is enough. No need of keeping the source code every time. Okay, that's what the source code tells over here. And we don't use source code and all in our real-time projects. Okay? What we write, that is going to be the source code. The rest of the code which is built by the third-party vendors or a Java team, we will be using the bytecodes. Today we'll start with the Selenium part. Okay, ending Selenium part. So as of now, when it comes to Selenium WebDriver, we have discussed about the activities like undoing the activities, click type, selecting from the drop down. And when you see most of the method which we use for doing the operation is going to be find element. Okay, and remember that any class can be a return type or any class can be a parameter. It's not about only dealing with string. That is something which you need to break up and then come up with the different types what we are discussing. So any class objects you can, any class you can create an object. You can avoid some class to be like if you don't want the class to be instantiated, you can make it as abstract, or you can use interface. Interface is not a class at all. Remember that. Okay. For interface, no point of creating the objects. It's not a class at all, first of all. And abstract class, it's a class only, but it is not, we are not allowed to create an object. The reason is it will have some methods without definition. No point in creating the object. And inheritance, method overriding concept, abstract class, all these are going to be always dealing with mostly non-static. Object level is required to override the methods, override the uh, variable and all. Object will be used mostly. Then only we will be able to extend some class and we can override the existing method in that class. So you can give a new definition, which you will be seeing it in the testing. We'll take on that. Let's start with the pending topics. As of now, we have done basic activities, synchronization. I told you how to use implicit wait is what we have discussed, I guess. Post that we did not discuss anything. We'll work on that. Implicit wait is what we discuss. Okay, that's it. And implicit wait is a concept. It's a universal wait. Once you apply it, it's going to be applicable throughout the driver, and applicable for find element and find elements method. Nowhere else. For example, we are using something like get title, and then we are using something like get title, get current URL, all these things. For that and all, it's implicit wait is not going to work. It's only for find element and find elements. Explicit wait is exact condition, which I will discuss it. We have discussed it for alert, I guess. Not sure whether we added it or not. And based on that, I have given you one assignment. One case we have discussed explicit wait. There is a fluent wait where you can control the pooling time and ignore few exceptions, which we will be discussing. And then the important concept Selenium frame, multiple tabs alert, multiple tabs or window and alert. So these are all some concepts which will come across while working with the application. So you should be able to deal with this. To get the frame detail and all, you can use plugin or by concept what we learn. The same way you need to work on the frame. Just understand what is a frame, then it will be simple. Instead of blindly checking for frame, iframe, frame and all, just understand what is a frame. Basically, HTML embedded into HTML. That's it. You have to find which HTML contains your element and get into that HTML by using the Selenium method. We have seen methods only with web element. We have other options also. As of now, this method will solve all the problem for you by writing your own XPath details. And difference between close and quit, we have seen selector hub plugin. Now today we'll start with some advanced concepts like mouse or activity, keyboard activities. I'll quickly tell you. And then I'll tell you the real-time scenario where you can apply the mouse or activity and keyboard activity. For example, let me show you. Let me take this page. Tomorrow we'll start designing a TestNG framework. You can do with me, along with me. Admin. Let me give the username, password, and login. And in case in this page, if you want to click on patient new search, that's assignment which I gave you. I'm not sure how many of you get time to check. Few assignment details which I gave you. That's Selenium concept, and then inheritance concept if you want to practice for that I've given some assignment. In order to work with this, if you want to click on this new search, okay, let me inspect the new search. Just understand this error. Let me inspect the new search, and then see the XPath for this. Let me inspect it. This is for mobile automation. Let me remove it. No. New search. I'll just inspect it, and you can see I got the element right now. The tag name is div. It has the attributes class data bind, and if you see, this are all looks like a common name. So every element will have a same class name and a data binding. So we cannot rely on that. So I have to go for the text. Most of the things will deal with text here. And if it is a tag, then I can use link or partial link. As of now, it's a div tag. The only option what we have right now is either like XPath is what we discussed. That's the only option. Otherwise, you can use CSS. CSS, I'll tell you. Now I can write the XPath using this text. Let's go over here. I'll just identify the element. You see the div tag new search. The element is present right now. Div tag. Let me click outside. You can see the element is present and it's not visible right now. If you see in the UI, it's not visible. When it will get visible is either you have to click on patient or you have to click mouse over on the patient. So some pages deal with these kind of scenario. Now you see the element is present. Using Selenium, when you do a click, already I told you, right? So the using Selenium, when you click on it, the element should be present and visible. Otherwise, you will be getting click in element click intercepted where we got this error. I think the Selenium go to meeting, there was a pop-up. Okay, understand the difference between the errors. So here, when I run this program, there was a pop-up. Let me come on this pop-up. Here we got that error. Element click intercepted. Element click intercepted exception. Understand the difference. Now we will be getting one more error. Element not interactable. Just listen here. This exception we have seen no such element exception. Either it will be frame or XPath will be wrong. The locator is wrong. That's no such element exception. The other one is click intercepted exception. Intercepted exception comes into picture when you see some pop-up comes above your element, the element which you're planning to click on. Above that, you will be seeing some pop-up. During that time, you will get that error. Element click intercepted. You can see here. We are trying to click on try free. Above that, there is some pop-up which comes. During that time, if you try to click on try free, wait for the page load, then it will try to click on it and you will see element intercepted exception. So if you read that line, you will come to know exactly you are planning to click on this link, but the link is received by some other element div. Okay, that's there. To handle this, you have to close the pop-up or you have to bring that element in UI by scrolling it. Okay, that is one error. Element click intercepted. Now let me show you one more error. In Selenium, hardly if you take some 10 exceptions will be there. You will be keep on getting those exceptions only with Selenium part. With Java part, you will get all the many exceptions. Let me create a class. OpenEMR Demon OpenEMR. Main method I'll create. Now inside this main method, I'll navigate to the URL and I'll set the implicit bit. The username, password, and click on login. For entering username, password, and all, we have name and ID. We can use that ID and we can send the text. Text is going to be admin. Login into the portal. I'm planning to log in into the portal, which we already discussed. So I'll just write the code. Okay. And then once I log in into the portal using this expert, I will try to click on that element. Once I log in. Okay. And let me log out to get that element. Here, username is admin. That ID I'll be using to send the record. Username admin and password is pass only. The ID is clear pass. Using that, I'm trying to send the data. Then I'll try to click on login. Okay, it has a ID now. They updated with ID, I guess. So I can use ID. Dot click and make sure the locator what you call is correct. While copy pasting code and all, just make sure the locator what you give is correct. I'm planning to enter the username, password, click on login. Once I click on login, you see we are trying to click on new search. Now new search is not going to be available directly. Only when you click on patient it will show. So you have to do mouse over activity. Just understand these error. Now we will get the error actually. Entering username, password, and click on login. So now it will start searching for the element. In order to perform a click, the element should be present and visible, as I told you earlier. If the element is not present, not at all available, you will get no such element exception. If the element is present, then if there is some pop-up, then you will be getting this exception. If element is present, if it is hidden, then you will be getting an error called element not interactable exception. Just understand the difference. Not interactable and intercepted will be a similar exception only. But intercepted means some other element is receiving the click, whereas this error you will get when the element is not visible. Element click not interactable. Element not interactable exception. So you see if the exceptions first for a driver issue, then we will get illegal state exception. Path to the driver executable should be added. Then if the locator is wrong, no such element exception. And if the pop-up any pop-up hiding your element, then click intercepted exception. If while working with the browser, if you close the current tab and continue the operation without moving to the available tab, then no such window exception. If alert is not there, no alert exception. Now, if the element is present and if it is not visible, element is present, not visible, you will get this exception. Okay. If you understand the exception, you will not go and search for XPath again and again. The XPath and all, it's perfectly all right here. The element is present, but not visible. Understand the difference between present and visible. Present in the sense, this is your presence. This is your present. New search is present, not visible. To visible, I have to click on this. Now, whether to click or mouse over activity, you need to decide carefully. In this scenario, if you see, if I click on patient, just expanding the list over here. It's not clicking on patient. In some application, what will happen is when you try to click on it, for example, in this application, if you see, I wanted to click on member listing. Assume that I want to click on member listing. Now to click on member listing, whereas here I'm clicking on patient, nothing happening. Just find element dot click you can do and click on new search. Whereas here, if you try to click on membership, it will go take you to the membership page. When you try to click on membership, it will take you to the membership page. But in order to click on member listing, we have to mouse over only. Here, mouse over is going to be mandatory part. Based on that, you need to decide. Whereas here and all, you should not go with mouse over. Which is not required. If you go, it will work, but it is not required. The reason why mouse over should not be used in all these scenarios, we'll try to avoid it. In order to do mouse or keyboard activity, there is a class in Selenium called actions, which helps us in doing mouse and keyboard activities. That too in the web page only. Remember that Selenium is a part of web page only in the web page. And while working with this, there are lots of drawback. Drawback is there when it comes to action class. No proper error will be given. when it is not working, and we should not use during the runtime. Do not use mouse, keyboard during the runtime, because that disturbance will also cause an issue. The mouse or activity, keyboard activity may not work. And if the browser is running in headless mode, I'll tell you what is headless mode. In headless mode also, it will cause the issue. Okay, it may not work. May not work in the headless mode. Headless mode in the sense, browser will not be launching in front of the screen. It runs in the background and gives the report. So some problems are there when it comes to action class. Mostly we'll try to avoid this action class. Only in unavoidable situation we'll introduce this. In some case you wanted to deal with mouse or actions and you wanted to run it in the headless mode and all, we use JavaScript to do the activity. I'll tell you about JavaScript later once we complete this. Let's understand this. Let me go over here. In order to click on this patient new search, in this case, what I do is I don't do mouse over unnecessarily. I'll just find the element and I'll do find element dot click, which will solve the problem. You see, it's that element. I can just do find element dot click. No need to put mouse over here. Okay. Dot click. Okay. Unnecessarily, don't use mouse over activity. Now, this code, if it is not working at all, or if it's throwing some other issues on it, then we can approach the mouse or activity. But here, it should work because the click is actually expanding the list only. It's not clicking on the page, like not taking to the patient page. And all you see, it not new search. This task you have to complete it. Try to complete it during the weekend. Remaining task here, mouse over may not require. So, using the same scenario, I'm planning to do with nascom.h. In nascom.nascom, I wanted to click on. After loading this nascom.in, then I wanted to click on. Let me leave this. I wanted to click on member listing. For that, no other option. If you click on membership, it is going to take you to membership. It will affect the mouse over activity. So here we have to do mouse over. In order to do mouse over activity, I have just created a copy of this code. nascom.in. Let me navigate to that URL. After navigating to the URL, I'll try to click on this member listing directly without mouse over. I'm trying to click on member listing. It's a tag. You can use link text, partial link text, or XPath, whatever it is you can use. I'll write the XPath for this. //a text equal to member listing. See, instead of tag name, you can mention star. Instead of tag name, you can mention star. Here you can mention star. Star means recommended to give the tag name, but you can also mention star. Star means basically any tag name. If you give star, any tag it will pick. Any tag having the text member listing is what we are trying to check. That is basically star. If you want, you can add, but it's recommended to add the tag name, which will filter better, faster also comparing to the star, which will look for every element. Now over here, I will try to click on that element directly, and remaining steps I'll try to remove. After navigating to nascom.in, I'm trying to click on member listing. Let's understand this error right now. You can see the error right now. Element not interactable exception. Okay, the same error what we have seen it in the previous element is present, it's not visible. To make that element visible, sometimes you have to do scroll. In some scenario, it will not, only after scrolling it might be loading completely. In some scenario, here mouse over activity, I have to do mouse over. If I click on membership, it will take you to membership. So let me first do this activity. Membership mouse over activity I'll try to do. For that, I can write the XPath. Membership. Okay. You can see it points to 2 elements. By default, it will take the first element. Make a note on this XPath also. If you're not able to find the proper any other XPath, there are lots of XPath going further, which we'll be discussing. For example, if you see 2, 3 XPath, some element is pointing to 3 XPath, 2, 3 element. Now, if you want the first element or second element, that you can decide by using the grouping concept in XPath. But we rarely use this. We used to avoid this because of stability. If they change the order or any element introduced, this will go for a toss. You can mention the number, exactly which number you want. Exactly number you want starts with 1. Starts with 1. Exact XPath count you need to give. Starts with 1. Now, if I use this, enclose it in a bracket, whatever you write, enclose it in a bracket. And by default, it will take the first one. If you want the second one, you can give 2. If you want first one, you can give 1. By default, it will take the 1 only. Grouping of XPath. When you don't have any other logic to write, you can use this kind of XPath to identify the element. Let me use this XPath. Any 1 is not required. It will take the first one only. Without 1 will also, it will work. In our case, right now. Okay. Anything is fine. I want to do mouse over activity. The mouse over activity and keyboard activity, all these are going to be methods only. To access the methods, we will be using the class actions. There's a class called actions coming from Selenium. And let me show you the class action. You can see actions class. And when you hover on it, you will get the detail where it's from. org.openq.selenium.interaction. That's the class. And these classes and all you can start exploring, which should be there in the code over here. Under Java source org.openqa.selenium.interaction, Selenium interactions dot action class. Actions is the one. Actions. Okay. And you can see this is the class. And this class is having, we are sending a driver. If you notice it, we have to create an object right now. You see constructor in this class. Action class is this one. And you have to explore it basically. In this class, you can see there is a constructor. How many constructors is there here? Constructor name and class name will be same. How many constructors is there?
Only one.
There is only one constructor called action class is the name. So constructor name will be same. And it is having with argument. You see, we are planning to send the browser. Which browser we are planning to use? The mouse over and keyboard activity. It's a mandatory part. And any other, these are all method returning an action object again. And all these methods, key down, key up, you see all these are methods. Okay. This method is what we are planning to use. Non-static method, if you see here, a non-static method, all these are non-static methods. Return type is action class. Same class it's returning, like by class. By class having the static method like by.id, it returns by type. This is the action class having methods. It's also returning an action. It's a non-static method. All these methods, to call it, I need to create an object. Click and hold, double click, all these are non-static methods. So let me create an object here. Now, you see while creating an object, it clearly tells you have to pass the driver. Construct with argument. We have to call that only, no other option, which we discussed in the last class and all. So if you create an object without passing the driver, it will throw error because there is no class which accepts action object. There is no constructor without argument. There is a constructor with argument only. Now, you see, in order to do the keyboard activity or mouse over activity, The browser detail is mandatory. Okay, how are we supplying the browser detail? How are we getting the browser detail from the user? We are the user, we are the client. We are writing this code. Now, in this application, we want to do mouse or activity. Now, how can we get the browser detail? Okay, for that, what they are doing is non-static method they have created. While create those methods, you need to create object. While creating an object, it becomes a prerequisite. You have to send the driver detail. Okay, which browser you are actually dealing. They can give here Chrome driver. They can create a Chrome driver, action class of Chrome driver. But why they don't do that is here they can create a action of Chrome driver. They can do that. But if they do that, only Chrome browser object you can send. If they create with Firefox driver, then you can send only Firefox. They can sit and create it for each and every browser. When it comes to additional browsers, if they want to support, they have to come on again and again. They have to change the code. Okay, that will be kept in mind before starting with the development and all. So that's why they use the parent type here. So any child object, I can send it over here. It can be any object. That's a WebDriver object we are doing. WebDriver is going to deal with common thing which we will be using throughout the Selenium code. Now object is created. Now I can call the method actions dot. You can see all the methods. Context click, like a click. Click is nothing but performing a mouse click. Wherever your cursor, it will go and click on that. Click on web element, mouse click on the web element, click and hold on web element. Web element means the web element type you need to give. To get web element, which method returns the web element? We discussed it, right?
Find element.
Yeah,
Find element.
fine. Yes. So whenever you want the web element in Selenium WebDriver, you have to get the help of find element. If you want to get the byte type, by.id, by.name. So those method returns the byte type. So here, lot of method will be there. You can see here context click is nothing but right click. And go to the browser. If you do right click this page and all, right click will be possible, but you can't do anything on these things. Copy image, save image, inspect. This is coming from the browser environment, which you cannot automate. You can do right click. In some application, you will have the internal web page for right click. I'll show you. That is your context click. And then you can see drag and drop, double click, drag and drop from where to where. Two web element you need to give. One web element in that here, one web element here. Driver.find element, come on, driver.find element. Drag and drop XY axis. I'll tell you how to get the X axis, Y axis. And key down, key up. These are all for keyboard activities. Apart from that, for doing a mouse over activity, there is a method dot move. Just type dot move, you will get few methods. Move by offset. I'll tell you about this offset also. Right now, you can see there's a method called move to element. Okay. And if you are getting what concept is this? Inside the action class, just inside the action class, we have two methods. Two methods with same name. You see move to element, same name and a different argument. The concept is this in Java. Inside the same class, multiple method with same name. We discussed this one, right? Method overloading concept. It's an example of method overloading only. One is asking for web element, the other one is web element with XY axis. But web element will use because we know web element right now. Move to element, I can give driver.find element. By dot, you can use XPath, ID, name, whatever it is, you can give that. I'm going to give this XPath. This is how you have to do mouse or activity. That element. Now, whenever it comes to mouse or activity, you have to give the method. Right now, you call the methods like move to element, dot click, dot click and hold, double click, all this you can call it. Okay, all these are going to return an action object only. All these methods are going to return an action objects only if you see. Okay, the current object is what is going to be returned by this method. Now you can do dot click, dot click, dot click activity you can do. Now, after doing all these things while doing it with the mouse over activity, dot perform is mandatory. You have to give dot perform. Right now, run the mouse over activity, dot perform is mandatory. Only when you give dot perform, it will start executing the script. If you forgot to give dot perform, nothing will happen. It will directly go to this stage. It will not even throw any error. Okay, even though if the code is failure, it's not going to throw any error here. Next line will be throwing the error. Click not an interactable error in the next line. So perform is always required. Make sure you add the code perform dot perform. Okay, only when you give dot perform, it will get executed. Let me run the script. Okay. And during the runtime, if you clicked on member listing, that's the step. During the runtime, if you are trying to do some other activity, something like this, it will also disturb the mouse over activity. And if it is disturbing the mouse over activity, you can see I was doing some activity and it disturbed the mouse over activity. Now what will happen is it will directly go for this step. This step will be throwing error. Element not interactable. And if you see the line number in the error, just scroll down and you will be able to see your class name, line number 27. This is going to throw error. This will not throw any error. Okay. So got it? How to do mouse over activity, basic mouse over activity. Most of the time you use this move to element method. Okay. Now just understand how to use the activity. Based on that, I'll give some answer. Now this after clicking on it, then you have to do the find element or do the operation. All these things you can do. Basic mouse over activity. Now let me quickly give you an idea about keyboard activity. Just understand how to use the keyboard activity. Rename the class refactor. Rename.
Balaji, how to
Yeah.
select second option in that drop down membership drop down?
Which one? This one? This one?
Yes.
Yeah. So right now, if you see here, mouse over is mandatory and become a member. Here, mouse over is mandatory. Me to tell you. If you click on become a member, it's talking to become a member. So we cannot do a click here. Now, mouse over on membership is mandatory and mouse over on member, become a member is mandatory. Mouse over and here I need to click on it. So let me show you that. And make sure the XPath is correct. You can try checking the XPath before using the code. If you miss out the XPath, if there are 2-3 elements, it will directly go to other element and mouse over. It will become a disturbance during that time. Okay. Let me do it. I just made a copy of this code. First I'm here, in order to click on member listing, just a mouse over on membership is enough. But I wanted to click on this membership benefit, as in that I want to click on membership benefit. Now, I have to do mouse over on membership. Now I have to do mouse over on become a member. Let me first identify that element, become a member, and write the XPath for it. And you see, it chose 2 elements. Okay. Sometimes what will happen is it will try to mouse over on the if like first element is not coming, it will directly go and mouse over on the second element. Okay, let me write the XPath right now. XPath, if you use, it will take the first XPath. It will try to take. If that is not available, it will throw it. If you use by dot link text, by dot partial link text and all, it will check for the present and visible. It will take the visible element. So you have to be careful. So write the XPath when you do the mouse over activity. Most of the time, it will be stable. I'll do one more mouse over activity. All this I can combine it, but as of now, I'll do it individual line. So move to element, driver dot find element, by dot export. All this we can combine in a single step. I'll tell you about it. Dot perform. I'm running it one by one. Now, once I click on this become a member, I hover on become a member, membership benefit. In order to click on membership benefit, I have to write, let me write the export for it. Now, one element only. So, in this is the element. Now, you don't want to do mouse over click and all, it's not required here. Don't do mouse over click. You can do mouse over, again move to element on this and dot click you can do, but which is not required. Once the element becomes visible in UI, you can do driver dot find element. Driver dot find element by dot export. Dot, let me run the script. If it is pointing to the any other element, you try to write the grouping of export. Or you have to put a delay in between the activities. Okay. Become a member and then it clicks on. You'll see it is running too fast. It's better to add a fast time between this activity. It's not an issue. I'll tell you how to add it. First, is it clear for you? Writing individual step on doing it. Now, the same activity here. I'm trying to do mouse over or doing the operation completely, and then I'm going to mouse over doing the operation mouse over completely, and then finding the element, making this element visible and clicking on it. That's it. While doing this click, it should be present and visible. The same activity, I can merge it and do it. So listen here. Let me make a copy of a code here. Demo 4 mouse over. I can merge it and do it. Whichever is comfortable for you, you can use that. Action dot move to element. Move to element returns an action object again. So with that, you can call again. You can do dot click, dot move to element, dot click and hold. Every method you see return type is action. So same object is keep on getting written. So action class object you can use to call the methods, action class methods, non-static methods. So all these methods are going to return the same object again and again. You can call all these methods together. See, all these you can call it in a single line. Okay, let me do this. Action dot move to element dot move to element. Okay, you see dot move to element dot move to element, and then I'm doing. Let me put a break. Let me get into new line. It's the same line of code only. Action dot move to element dot move to element. How many activity we are doing it here? Earlier we were doing one activity only at a time. We were doing one activity and running it. One activity and running it. But here, how many activity we are merging it? Two activity, right? When you do more than two activity, when you do more than two steps in a single line, you have to give build dot build method you need to call. The build method will try to make sure all these are single unit of code. The build method only will try to make sure all these are single unit of code. Basically, it will try to do compile here build method. Okay, whatever the action you give, it will try to combine all these things together, and then it will run the code. Okay, build becomes mandatory when you do more than one activity. First, it will try to come like whatever the action class we write, it will convert into script, JavaScript mostly. While converting into script, if you add more than one line of code, one activity in a single line, then you have to call the build. It becomes a mandatory. When you do build, all this will be compressed as a single script, as a single unit. Then perform is always required. Build is required when you give more than one activity. Let me add that in the notes. Always required to run the action class methods. actions methods, and build and perform is required when multiple operations, action class operations. Build will make sure all these are a single unit of code and keep the code ready. And when you do perform, it will run. Okay, that's the activity. While doing this activity, it's going to do it in quick time. Sometime it will work, sometime it will not work. Even a slight change in the mouse, it will disturb the flow. So it's better to add some delay in between. Sometime it will work, sometime it will not work. It runs in very quick time. Make it sure it should work. What we will do is we'll try to put script in between. Like wait time, we will try to do dot pause. In between the activity, you can add dot pause. While doing the pause, you can see there is also example of overload. Method overloading, same method with different argument. Duration, long, both are possible. Now, you can give duration object. Duration object, if you want implicit by task for duration, right? So during that time, we try to give duration dot of second. You can use that dot pass duration dot of second, or you can give the long duration. 1000 if you do, it will wait for 1 second. It's a millisecond. Dot pass. There is a delay of 1 second, and then I'm trying to do the activity. First, it will do mouse over activity and membership, then a delay of 1 second. Then I'm trying to do mouse over on become a member. Perform recording theory. Can you please paste it in chat? Which one? This one?
Yeah, this.
Session notes there in drive link. You can check it out. Build will make sure all these are single unit of code. Build will make all as single unit of code. Okay. See, if you do in the previous scenario, what happened is single unit of code. In the previous scenario, what happened is in the previous scenario, in the previous example, every time it will create the script, run it here. It will create the script, run it. In this one, create a script, run it here. Create a script, run it, completed. Now here, what we are trying to do is we are adding all the code over here. If you don't do any of this build and perform, if you don't do, nothing will happen. Just it will be accumulated and kept. Once you come out of the method, that object what you created will be destroyed. And when you do build, it will just make sure all these are single unit of code. This particular part, and perform will try to run the script. It's the concept here. And you can use this action class in different ways also. For example, see here, action dot move to element, and I can do this driver dot find element semicolon. Okay, in the next line, action dot pass 1000. In the current object only we are accumulating action dot double click. You can all these do, and finally you can do action dot build. Since we are adding all the code, you can do build and perform. Like this also you can perform. Like accumulating in the for loop, it will be useful. I'll tell you how to do that. Like this also you can use it. Any other doubts with this? Right now the basic activity move to element. Now keyboard activities we'll see, and then I'll tell you a real-time scenario where you can approach this keyboard activities. These are all Selenium methods available. With this, we'll try to do operation. If nothing is working out, then we will write our own script. Okay, let me rename the class. Let me keep it as 5. First, I will understand how to use the keyboard activities. And I will show you some real-time example where you can approach this keyboard activities. And whatever the mouse or activity, keyboard activity we are doing, it will work only in the web page, only in the web part of the application. Okay. Suppose I want to do mouse over here. I want to do in this history, downloads, bookmark, or add-on, or I want to do mouse over in notepad file. All these things are not possible. Only in the HTML content it's possible. Selenium mouse over and keyboard activity, it's purely for web application only. Remember that. Now let me go to google.com, the site google.com. Now if I go to google.com, you see cursor point will be there. When I load this URL, cursor point will be there in the search box. Automatically the cursor point will be there in the search box. So here what I'm trying to do is I'm going to do action dot. Let me press the shift key. When it comes to keyboard activity, you have lots of methods for doing the keyboard activities. Lots of methods are there. Methods like key down method is there, and there is a method called key up. Key up method. This method, key down, key up method, can be used for modifier keys. When it comes to keyboard activity, you should know what is modifier keys. Modifier keys are nothing but control, alt, shift. We used to press this key and do some activity. Control alt shift, we used to press this key and do some activity. That is your modifier keys. Only for modifier keys, we should use this method, key down and key up method. Lower camel case will be the method name. This method will be the key up, key down. And rest of the keys, I want to click on enter, I want to click on down arrow, up arrow, keyboard activities, any other keyboard methods like number, alphabets, function keys, what all these things. For other keys, what you have to use is other keys like enter, arrow down. For all other keys, then you have to use the method send keys. Send keys method under the action class. Okay, send keys method from the action class. Let me tell you. Let me do one thing. I'll try to go to this google.com. Then I'll press shift key. While pressing shift key, I'll type something. And then I'll release the shift key. And then down arrow 3-4 times I'll do. And then I'll click on enter. Okay, this activity I'll do. To do this activity, first shift key I need to press. Shift key is basically a modifier key here. Shift is a modifier key, shift alt control. You have to do key down. Let me do that. Action dot. You see there will be a method key down. Okay. Key down is a method available in the action class. And you can see something like it's asking for character sequence. It's basically similar to, it's called enumerator. I'll tell you about it. Like character sequence, I'll tell you. Key down. Okay. And I have to give the character sequence. For giving the character sequence, there is a, you can consume this as a static variable enumerator, but it is an enumerator. We'll see about that. As of now, you can understand as a static variable. Static variable we call using the class name. Enumerators you can create it. Basically, it's like a static variable only, but this key is basically an enumerator. And this keys. Now keys dot you do, you will get all the keyboard activities. You can see all the keyboard activity keys will be shown over here. This keys is coming from a, let me first do shift key, shift F shift or shift, this shift I want to do. The keys is basically an enumerator here. Okay, which comes from org.openqa.selenium.keys. Let me check that. org.openqa.selenium and keys here. keys.java, you see enumerator. Okay, enumerator is one of the concept in Java that I'll tell you. And it implements character sequence. And what is the argument it asks for? You see, it's asking for character sequence, the parent basically. What does this implement means? What is it? It's a class or interface?
Interface.
Yeah, it's basically an interface. Character sequence interface. Somewhere it should link is not available. I'll check that. Now you see under this keys, you can see some code is there. Okay, so these are all basically a code. For keyboard activities, this code will be used. ASCII key code or something will be there. Unicode PUA private area. So for all these, we need to send the string, basically character sequence, basic collection of characters you need to send. That's a concept over here. You have to send for every keys. You will have a Unicode character or ASCII key. Something will be there. That detail you need to send. By hearting this and all, it will be quite difficult. For that only, they have created this enumerator keys. For cancel, I need to send this. For help, I need to send this EE002. For a tab, I need to send E004. It's remembering this and doing it quite difficult. So we call these enumerator. This enumerator will send this character sequence. Okay, so that's fine. You can just use that keys dot shift. That's the key. And then I want to type something dot send keys. Let me type hello here. And I want to release the shift key. To release the shift key here. Only for enumerator, basically a key value pair it will be there. Just use that enumerator name dot. Just to start like a static variable, you can call shift. Right now, what I did over here is action dot key down send keys here. Let me run without perform. I'm just keeping this code and running it without perform or without build anything. We are doing multiple activity. I did not do anything. Directly I'm running it. You see, and the code is also not throwing error completed. We are just accumulating the option. When to run all these things you need to give. When we are merging more than one activity here, we have to go build activity. Build will come and build all these as a single unit and perform will try to run it. Okay, build and perform is required. I'll add few more activity. I do key down shift key. Right now it's not working because we have to give build and perform. I want to type hello. Then after typing hello, I'll give down arrow 3 times and then click on enter. To do down arrow and to do the enter key and all other key, we will be using send keys method. Send keys dot send keys will also ask for character sequence. You see here, send keys will also ask for character sequence. And find element we are using, right? Find element dot send keys. If you notice that find element dot send keys also will ask character sequence. Suppose if you want to send an enter key, you can do this. If you want to send an enter key in the password after entering the password dot send keys, this is possible. Keys dot enter. Character sequence only. You can pass this. It will enter the. It will just do an enter key after entering the password. Find element will also ask for character sequence only. You can send the text what you want, or you can directly use those keys. If it is acceptable, it will work. Otherwise, it will throw error in the performance of enter key. Right now, see what's happening on clicking on enter. What is happening while clicking on enter? The password. Just taking the username password and taking you to the portal. I'm not clicking on login, just passing the enter. These and all you can do it, but clicking on enter is not required. You have to click on the element. Element is what we are planning to check. Now, action dot move to element, like action dot key down and keys up shift, and then we are planning to do the down arrow, right? So keys dot arrow down, keys dot arrow down. For all other keys, you have to use dots and keys only. Keys dot arrow down. Arrow down I want 3 times. So I will try to add it 3 times. Then I wanted to enter the click on enter. Dot enter. Now you see we are merging lot of activity in a single line. So for sure you have to give build and perform is always required. If I run the script, it happens in a quick time. You can add a delay in between if in case you need this. Sometimes when you work with Angular JS or you see it happens in quick time. When you work with Angular JS page or React JS page, find element dot click may not work. At that time, you have to go use this down arrow, up arrow to choose the element after filtering the element. Let me do pause of 1 second. I'll do in between the activity. Just understand how to use keyboard activities. Then we will understand where to use this. Scenario you can use it, but which search it is clicking on, that depends on the Google search only. 3 times down arrow after a second delay, then enter. Okay. Understood? Gen keys you have to use all other keys, and for Control Shift Alt you can use key down key. Got an idea about how to approach this keyboard activities?
Balaji, what is the use of shift down and
Just
key down and key up?
I want to explain the concept actually. If I use Shift and type anything, it will type it in uppercase. Just wanted to tell you how to use this modifier keys. That's why I've written that. If you hold Shift and type something, it just gives an uppercase, right? No specific reason in this example, just telling you how to use the keyboard activities. Okay, just to approach with this modifier keys, I use that. Got it? Okay. Now, where to apply this mouse over activity and keyboard mouse over activity, you will be seeing the scenario will be straightforward. Sometimes when you rarely we use keyboard activities, but sometimes you have to approach it. So when it comes to something like choosing from the list, or sometimes you have to find the drop down will be there, Angular drop down will be there, Angular drop downs. So during that time, what will happen is the find element may not work sometime. Otherwise, you have to give lots of delay in between to get that element. So you can click, mostly it will have fixed items. Mostly you will have fixed item. You can click on it. After click on it, down arrow, enter we do. Click on it, enter, we click on it, up arrow, enter. Enter, click on it, choose. After choosing, we'll get the element. But after clicking on it, this option will not be there. Inspect, but here it should be there. Some cases you will be facing that problem. Okay. During that time, we can use this keyboard activities. Other option is, let's take this example. It's given that an assignment, I guess. It was already in the assignment. It was not there. Okay, fine. This task you try to complete March 25. Those who did not complete it. Okay. I'll tell you. So what we will try to do is we'll do this activity. Let's take this scenario. I'll try to navigate to this URL, PHP travel. Then I want to click on flights. I'll try to click on flights. Some issues there in the page, but you can ignore it. I'll try to click on flights. After clicking on flights, I'll try to choose from location to location and search for the flight. While searching for the flight, there is a date field. I'll tell you how to do that. And adult, you see these options and all that. Okay, approach will be like click only. We do click only. If nothing is working out, then only we go for mouse over and keyboard activity. Now listen here, I will try to navigate to this URL. Then first thing is I want to click on flights and listen this. These kind of pages is what you will be getting mostly in real time. Now let me click on flights. To click on flights, let me inspect it and see here. Here there is a which option we can use for clicking on this.
Link text.
We can use it looks like a link text, right? And be careful on using this. You can use link text, but what will happen right now is it will throw no such element exception, and it is also not going to be inside the frame. If you see, there is no frame concept in this. After inspecting, just check one thing, like whatever the text given here, the case, okay, case, and check the case in the UI. What is the difference you see here? Here it is in lowercase, whereas here flight F is in uppercase. You see the difference, right? When you see the difference, you have to see the take the text what is available in the UI. If you use link text or partial link text, you have to give F as uppercase. Otherwise, you write the X part. When you see the difference in case in UI as well as in the page source, use the X part. Nascom.in also you might be seeing that. You see here, click to apply online. It's completely in uppercase, whereas here it's in a different case. Okay. So what we do is we'll try to use this particular text, so don't get confused. Let me copy it. I'll try to show you that. Driver dot find element anchor tag only. So whatever we are trying to do, it's correct only, but still there's a difference in font, basically in UI as well as in the let me run it and check. You let me check it. It says no such element exception, but we think that code whatever we have written is correct. Okay, right now if I try to give you might be start checking into the frame and all, so don't get confused. While inspecting, make a note of it. UI as well as in the text in the page source, it should be in a common text. Otherwise, write the expert. See now it clicked on the flights. It clicked on the flights. Whatever is in the UI, that text you need to give when you go for link text. So to get, if you see a difference, don't get confused. Use expert already we discussed, right? // a text. What it's while writing the expert, that is expert is related to check it in the UI basically in the page source. You have to match this expert should be present. Expert you try to write, it's not matching, it's matching here. Okay, so expert will work in this case. Understood? one scenario. Like this, we have lots of scenarios which you will be learning it by today. Most of the things will be done. And then if nothing is working out, JavaScript, I will be explaining how to extract detail from videos, graphs and all. Not 100%, something you can do it. Okay, not 100% assurance cannot be done, but you can explore the data instead of every time checking it manually. That I'll tell you. Which path will work? I'm clicking on flights. After clicking on flights, I wanted to choose the type over here as a business. So I want to choose the travel type as business. Let me inspect it. Understood this part? If you have any doubts,
Yes.
let me know. Okay, let me check for this travel type over here. Inspect it. It's a select tag. When you see select tag, just use this concept. Select tag you see, you create an object for select class. If you want to store, you can store. You without storing also you can do it basically directly. You can create new select class object. Okay, and then dot after giving the argument web element, you can give. Am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Okay, so select class driver dot find element. Okay, by dot export or ID. It was having an ID, so let me use ID. Okay, after creating an object directly, you can do dot select by visible text. You can do, and you can complete in a single new object. You can create it with the object reference. You can directly call. You can store the object, and you can use the reference to call the method. Or it's a single line only, so you can do this also. These things and all, you try to start practicing here and there. If it is confusing, leave it, store it, and do it. Visible text will be like business, and ID is flight underscore time. Okay. Creating an object with that object reference, directly calling that method. And this method is going to return void. We can't store it. Now, after that, I wanted to select the flight. From location, I want to select it as Los Angeles. Okay, and there is the code called LAX. Now, when it comes to the flight booking site or bus booking sites and all, there will be a code. You have to use that code only. For example, you cannot directly go and type it and move on, which will not work. You cannot directly go and type and move on, which will not work. You have to actually choose from the list available here. You have to give the starting character, or you have to give the code, and you will have a list here. Okay, and then with that list only, you should be choosing it. You have to identify this element and that approach you need to do. And if that is not working, what you need to do is you have to do LAX, and then you will get the list. Make sure you filter your record properly, and that should be in the first step. Then you can do down arrow enter. That will those options you can try. First, what we need to do is list from the list only you need to select. For that, you need to inspect this element, and then send the text LAX. Let me send the text LAX for that. Inspect it, and while inspecting, you see here it shows something like this input tag type equal to search. ID is there. Let me use ID and send the text. If ID is duplicate, then it will throw error. Let me use ID and see. By dot ID dot send keys. I'll first give the code. Most of the flight booking site, these sites and all, you can give the code. LAX you give, your record will be coming in the top, the search record. Now, after that, I have to inspect this. After that, I need to inspect this. After inspecting it, you can see you will be able to identify this element. You have to just write your own XPath for this. This is the code. BLAX is there. Strong, Los Angeles, Intel, whatever the code you want to select, you can write it. And anyhow, there is something called BLAX. You can write XPath for this. You can write XPath for this. And don't use this one, class and all, because every element will have the same class. It will try to pick the first one in that case. Let me use this BLAX, XPath with BLAX / B text LAX. You see it's pointing to that element. So first thing what we do is, after filtering this, if you want to give a delay, you can give. Otherwise, do driver dot find element first approach dot XPath, that XPath dot click. This will be your first approach. If this approach is not giving you a solution, then you have to change the approach. It happens in quick time. You can put a delay in between if you want. Okay. Destination, I'll use the action class. Here, what is how to do that action class? You can use this. Let me type DAL. And then once I type DLL, this will come into picture. I just do down arrow and enter. After typing DLL, I'll just do down arrow and enter. Down arrow, enter. Okay. But make sure down arrow is pointing to your element or not. DAL, down arrow, enter. Okay. Let me do that. Let me first enter the data. DAL, and you can use down arrow dot change keys dot down arrow. You can do it, or you can use the action class. Actions action equal to new action class object you need to create. While creating an object, it will ask for the web driver detail. Okay, just pass the driver detail. Automatically, it will pass if you give control space. The driver detail, it has the control, so it will pass directly. Now I can do action dot 10 keys dot arrow down. Okay. And then dot 10 keys dot enter. Okay. More than one activity, so you have to do dot build dot perform. Okay. This approach you can try it. On this object and all, you can create it and keep it at the top. No need to create every time. This options object, you can create it and keep it in the top. Just for understanding, I'm putting it nearby the method where I'm calling. This is on PHP travel. You have to start working on your applications. Then only you will be facing these kind of scenarios, and you should be able to solve those scenarios. Down arrow and enter. And when you see the date field, first approach what you need to do is first inspect it. Okay. And after inspecting it, you can check for the attribute. After inspecting it, you can check for the attribute. There will be something called read only equal to true, or only read only will be there. If it is read only, you cannot type it. Otherwise, you can type it. So first thing, you can approach this. You can try sending the text and see. You have to choose the date. For example, I want to choose the date as April 22. Choose the format, copy the text. And this text, you need to send it actually. when it comes to date field, first approach this. Copy the format properly. Whatever the date you want, first choose it. Copy the format properly. Then there's an ID. Let me use ID and use driver.find element by dot export dot 10 keys. And that 10 keys you can change the same format. This approach you do. Sometimes this approach will not work. Even in this there is a holder section. In hotel section, this will not work. To overcome that issue, what we will do is we'll write the script. Action. We'll try to use JavaScript. Okay, all these, if whichever is not processing with the Selenium methods, we'll write the script like scroll down, scroll to element, and working on the read-only data, or if to click on the hidden items. For all these things, we'll be using JavaScript. Those things most we'll try to cover it tomorrow while working with framework. Tomorrow we'll do lots of hands-on tasks. Finding the element and sending the text. No such element exception, export ID, sorry. And the date is already filled. Right now, if I run, it will open the data. It will open the data. Date is already filled. If you want to clear it, first you need to clear the data and send it. The send keys, what it will do is if the text box is already filled with record, it will try to open the data. I'm running it again. So given the wrong locator, that's why it's showing it. You see the date got appended with this existing record. Okay. Now for that, what you can do is you can clear the record. Clear, you can do find element dot clear to clear the existing text box detail. And then after clearing, it will add the data. I want to select the adult here. Based on this, I'll do adult. I wanted to select two. Already there is one adult. I'll make the adult as 3. Okay, and child as children as I want to make this change. To do this, first what you can do is first a lot of option is there. You can try with this. You can easily do it. Any one option, it should be working fine. Okay. Option is first you can click here. First you can click here. After clicking here, just find some export or anything. Click here. Once you click here, you will get this element. It's not a select field and all, so you cannot use select tag and all. You can use click on plus based on number of adults given, and click on this plus based on the child given. That is one option. Or if you see this is a text field, directly you can use find element dot send keys, clear the data and dot send keys you do. After inspecting this, driver dot find element by dot ID, then clear the data. Here, you have child. Find element by dot ID dot clear, and then next line you can do find element dot send keys. That will work. Right now I'll approach with plus button and show you. First, what I need to do is I have to click over here. And here you see guest, flight, span tag and all it's there. Let me use a XPath with the 1 or XPath with the span contains. But to work on this site, okay, assignment is what I used to give basically, and then only I'll be discussing this. I'm discussing it directly over here. You have to practice anyway. First, in order to get this adult detail, I need to click on this. There is a text called guest flights. Last name contains, I'll do. At the rate class, come on, some whatever. Using this, I'll perform a click first thing. Now, driver dot find element by dot export, and I can do a dot click. Now, after that, I wanted to click on this plus icon is there. Let me inspect this, and you can see it as a the icon basically. So no detail is there for the text. And you see there is a class LA system. So // I stands for icon, square bracket at the rate class equal to this class. Now you see it points to 3 element. 3 plus is there. So by default, which one will be taken? By default, it will take the first one. So I want to operate on the first one only. To make the adult as 3, what I need to do is I have to already one is selected. By default, one is selected. I need to click on 2 times here. First one. I need to click on 2 times. So driver dot find element by dot export. You can do dot click. To click on 2 times, you have to repeat the code. You will be using some logics. You can try writing it. And already one is there, so I'll make it as 2. Child, I wanted to click 2 times. Like the second element. You can enclose it in a bracket. In this case, it will not go for any, it will not go wrong. You can use this. Enclose it in a bracket and you can mention to second element. Okay, whatever we are discussing today, these are all approaches. Already concepts are done, but you have to practice on this. Driver dot, same thing. Let me use the same click. XPath will be, you can try with different approaches also. As I told you, input boxes, directly you can try that. Now, if you see here, if I run the script, it will try to do all these activities. This pop-up is disturbing the flow actually. Click intercepted. And handle the pop-up upfront. Click intercepted means the pop-up is basically disturbing the flow. We have to put a delay for giving the time to the list to come properly. See. So you can ignore that exception and you can try clicking on it. For that, you can write a fluent wait. The page is actually throwing some error in the top. Because of that, I need to do scroll element into view or close this pop-up. That's the causing the issue. So I've added a delay. You can see here it clicks already adult was one, it clicks on 2 times, and for children it clicks on 2 times. So it's already selected now. I can click on search, find element and search. Based on the search result, it will show you the available flight. Make sure the search result is also correct. Whatever we have filled it, that should be reflected here in the search result. These details. If it is reflecting, then all are correct. Okay. For this, what you can do is for adult and all, instead of repeating the code, you can create the logic int adult. Okay, if I want to select 3, what I can do is by default it's already 1 is selected. So int starts with 1. Any logics you can write. I'm just giving you the logic. Less than equal to adult, and then I plus plus. Simple for loop I'm trying to write. I will try to put this code inside that. Okay, if I want to here. Okay, if I want to select 5 adult, I'll give it as 5. This value you will take it from Excel or anywhere, and this for loop will run based on that. If it is 5, it should run. It should be clicking on. Already 1 will be there, so it should click on 4 times in this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Less than 5. Already 1 will be there, so it's just done. Let me try this. Logics, you have to sit and you have to think about that logic. Less than equal to 5. So you can just start with 2 directly. It should work fine. Sit and write the logics, you will be getting it. Already 1 is selected, so that I'm skipping, starting from 2. 2 to 5 you can do. Otherwise, just do less than. Instead of doing less than adult, you can do start with 2. Already 1 is selected, so skip that and do it. For a child, I think child, I'm going to give it as 3 is what I wanted to do. Nothing is selected by default, so you can start with the 1. Okay. First, from 1 to exactly that count. That will solve the problem. And click, you have to do it on the second element. Understood these logics? Now this data you will be designing outside. What needs to be selected? The data we will be taking it from the Excel, any other external file. So is it clear for you? This? Fine. So whatever we have done till now, okay, action class. Based on that, we'll anyhow tomorrow it's going to be the session. We'll do some hands-on tomorrow. As of now, whatever we have discussed till now, if you have any doubts, let me know. Any doubts you have? In Selenium, you have to work on that locations with height, find elements is there. Those things and all will be there that we will be try to work on. Meanwhile, I'll tell you an option how to use CSS selector also. Before we wind up the session, I can give you an idea about CSS selector. In action class itself, I'll show you how to use CSS selector here. Basic CSS selector. XPath, we have covered a few things, but still there are lots of XPath to discuss. XPath with and or and following, preceding. But without this itself, you will be able to do all other operations. Following, preceding, parent, child, combination, and then ancestor, descendant, following sibling, and preceding sibling. So different XPath is there, which we will be using it. To identifying an element efficiently, we use this one. In this following, ancestor, descendant, parent, child, and or these four for sure. Everything is useful only. Preceding we rarely use, except that everything you will be using it in real-time scenarios to write a better XPath. Now, I have automated this open EMR just by using by.id, by.name, all these things. There's one more selector available, something called CSS selector. If you compare with CSS and XPath, CSS will be faster. CSS is a concept which is designed for handling the HTML. You see here, after you inspect the element, the bottom you can see something called style. Okay, this in the style section only, developer will give you the font detail, what font it should be, and what color it should be. Okay, those details the development team will be using the CSS concept to identify the element. You can see dot contact hyphen form underscore option dot form control. That's basically a class name. Dot something refers the class name, and you can see lots of CSS selector. Attribute equal to value, and you can see tag name attribute equal to value. These are all CSS selectors, similar to XPath. XPath is a concept which is started from the XML document. First, in the XML document, if you want to filter the record, in the XML document, XPath concept is used. The HTML is also kind of XML document only here. So we are filtering the record like an XML document only using XPath. CSS is something which will understand the HTML properly. And if you use by.id, by.name and all, if I give it wrong, you see here, I have given a wrong ID. And you can check the error during the runtime, you check the error. We have given by.id only, but here see what's happening. Selenium team will be working on that right now. Selenium team will convert the by.id into CSS selector and they will try to do the operation. If you notice the error right now, no such element exception, unable to locate element, and you can see CSS selector, but we are giving ID only. But what they are converting that ID is a CSS selector. ID, name, all this they will try to convert to CSS selector. If you inject the CSS selector directly, it will be much faster comparing to it. And the comparison you cannot do with this line of code. You need a lots of test case, some 50, 100 test case if you have, you can see the difference of total execution. As of now, you can understand the concept. Basic CSS selector, I'll tell you. You can work with scripts. If you know CSS selector, you can work with a script actually. See, hash something represent ID, hash something represent ID, dot something represent class name, and you can use tag name, square bracket, attribute equal to value. Without single quotes also you can do attribute equal to value. And square bracket attribute equal to value. These are all basic CSS selector which we have. With this 4 CSS selector, you can do almost cover everything. Let's work on this quickly. Let me inspect this element. After inspecting the element, you can use Control F to validate the XPath CSS. You can do Control F. You can see here, find by string, selector is there. You can write the selector. To identify the element using CSS selector, ID I wanted to identify. To identify the ID, you can use hash something. Let me do that. Hash something you give, that ID you give, it will try to filter all the ID with this particular clear path. This is your CSS selector. Using this, you can find the element. But when you use by.id, it will be converting in this format and it will try to check. So if you directly give by.css selector, it will be faster. By.css selector. Okay. And let me use it, by.css selector. And here I have to do hash user. That's the CSS selector. And there is a drop down here. For drop down, it's a selector. To automate this drop down, we know how to do it. We can use the script and automate it. Now here, I wanted to choose this drop down values there. You can create an object, store it, and do it. There is a name. Okay, ID is not there, and there is a class. To identify the class in CSS selector, you can use dot class name. You see, it points to 4 element. Dot class name, form control, and here also form control. Here also it's form control, and you see here how many class name is available. Just make a note of it. Initially, when I started discussing about the Selenium WebDriver, I told you to avoid class name and tag name. You will get lots of confusion with class name if you don't understand it properly. And here, if you see first one, you see there is only one class name called form control here. So that's the first element. This dot class name goes to 4 element. This is your second element. This is your third element, and this is your fourth element. You see here, if you write XPath, you will give @class equal to attribute equal to value. But here, it CSS knows what is HTML. Here there are 4 classes. Email is one class. W-100 email is one class. W-100 is one class. Text-body is one class. Form control is also one class. If you give dot form control, it will include that class also. Now it points to 4 element. If you use this, it will take the first one. So we cannot rely on this. We will check for ID. If ID is not there, you have to go for these two CSS selector. Let me write it here. The tag name is select name equal to language choice. Directly you can give the value without double quotes also will work. This is your CSS selector. Using this, you can find the element. I go over here by.css selector. Using this also, you can automate the element. And visible text, I wanted to select the language. Let me select the language, English, Indian. And to click on this login, ID is there, type equal to submit is there. Directly you can give this also, type equal to attribute equal to value. That will also work. Type equal to submit, attribute equal to value without running. So for XPath, for CSS selector is what I've designed over here. Using this, you can almost cover everything. And we have lots of CSS selector also. Starts with, contains with, similar to XPath. Lots of CSS selector is also there. I'll give you a link right now. As a QA engineer, mostly you'll be concentrating on XPath. If you want to concentrate on CSS also, you can do it, but don't merge CSS XPath all together. Just if you're following one format, just do one format. In this official site, you will be able to see lot of CSS selector. W3 school, not official site. Here you will see dot of CSS selector. Ash something represent all the ID. Star select all element. Tag name you can give. And if you do something like this, div greater than p, it will select all the paragraph under the div. Okay, and then if you see here, select all element with attribute equal to value, and select all element with the attribute containing the word flower. Symbol if you use containing the word. If you use this symbol power, then it will be checking for begins with, and dollar ends with. So similar XPath is there. Lots of similar to XPath. These are all CSS selector available, which you can check it when you get time. And basic CSS selector is enough right now. We will be using the CSS selector for writing the JavaScript efficiently. We use CSS selector for writing the JavaScript. Okay, for doing a scroll activity, extracting the data from the YouTube videos and all, we will try to use CSS selector. And easily we can extract the detail using the CSS selector and JavaScript concept, which we will check tomorrow. Right now, this is a concept of CSS selector. Just make a note of it. The operation will happen as usual. Okay. So today we discussed about the mouse over activity and keyboard activity. Mouse over activity, just move to element is what we discussed. Remaining things you can give a try. If it is any issues, you can let me know. And locations, size, those things and all we can discuss. Few more things are there, just part of the things like basic activities are pending. that you can easily learn. For example, back, forward, refresh, and all comes under navigate. You can do back, forward, and refresh option. These are all some things available which can be done in quick time, or while discussing the framework, we can do that. With the concept, what we learn, you need to do lots of hands-on on the live applications. A few more assignments, I'll share it. When you get time, try to work on it. Okay. Let me know if you have any doubts. Tomorrow we have session, so we'll start with framework. After starting with framework, while working with framework, we'll cover the pending Selenium concepts. Let me know if you have any doubts, otherwise we'll wind up the session. I'll update the code to the GitHub. Okay. Maybe tomorrow you will work on, we have enough time. Tomorrow I'll give the assignment on OOPS concept. I'll share the Oracle document. Okay, that is something which you can work on. By going through it, you will get more idea where you will have to create a football team and all, where you will be creating a player array and all. The document I'll share you and I'll tell you how to work on it. That part cannot be recorded. I'll tell you. I'll check with the team and tell you. Tomorrow I'll give you that task. You can work on that. Yeah. See you tomorrow. Updated the drive link. Updated the GitHub. I'll upload the drive. See you tomorrow. Okay. All for today's session. Bye everyone. See you.